There is a contender in the ACC that not a lot of people in the media are talking about, and it's the Syracuse Orange. Let me go ahead and start explaining. Fran Brown, first-year head coach at Syracuse, has no real head coaching experience and no solo defensive coordinator experience, but he gets the job here after being a DB's coach at Georgia last season, and he's done a phenomenal job, both keeping talent at Syracuse and bringing talent in through the transfer portal. On the returners from this last year's team that I think are significant, Oronde Gadsden, LaQuint Allen, Marlo Wax, Justin Barron, Jaden Bellamy, Elijah Clark. These guys are significant contributors to last year's team that make a significant impact so far this season. I mean, Oronde Gadsden led the team in receiving in game 1, 108 yards and a touchdown. And this offense looked electric. And it's because they bring in Kyle McCord from Ohio State. Now let's talk about him for just a second. This guy is not CJ Stroud. And a lot of Ohio State fans were really upset with his performance last year. I really don't know why. 3,000 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions. You really can't ask for more. Now, when you're Ohio State and you're trying to compete for the playoffs and you miss it, I guess I understand, but any other season, I think that one-loss Ohio State team would have gotten to the playoffs. But all that being said, he leaves, he goes into the transfer portal, and he comes to Syracuse along with Deuce Chestnut, free safety from LSU, Fadil Diggs from Texas A&M, an edge rusher, Devin Grant, a corner from Buffalo, in-state pickup there, Zeed Haynes, a wide receiver from Georgia, and Dion Wilson, a defensive tackle for New Mexico State. Now, these players are significant to me because they have experience playing at big schools for the most part, and they come in to be significant contributors to a Syracuse team that is extremely underrated. Now, the defensive back unit, of course, because of Fran Brown, is elite. There's tons of talent around there. They did give up a ton of passing yards in the Ohio game to start the year, but I expect as time goes on, this team will get much better. Now, what I want to talk about with this Syracuse team is the Ohio game on the defensive side of the football. I already talked about how the defensive back unit had a little bit of a letdown, but the biggest letdown was the tackling. It was atrocious, and I expect that to be solved come the Georgia Tech game this week. I mean, my goodness. Ohio's running back had like over 150 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. It looked like he was a knife carving up some butter. It was unreal, but I expect that Syracuse defense will have that solved coming this next week. Now, back to what I was saying about them being an ACC contender. I'm pretty much all behind that. I mean, they really don't have that many tough games outside of going to NC State, and they do have Miami at home at the end of the year, but Miami could be sleeping. That's the last game of the season. It's at Syracuse. They could definitely pull off the upset there, but the number one factor for this team is the fact that they have a veteran quarterback with tremendous talent. They have not had a quarterback of this caliber since Donovan McNabb back in like 1999-2000. So it's been almost 25 years since the Syracuse Orange have had a really good caliber really good starting caliber quarterback for an entire season, barring injury, of course. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is the fact that this team has playmakers at every position, especially running back. I think LaQuint Allen, who was a 1,000-yard rusher last year, could repeat that season, if not better. Syracuse has got the offensive line talent to win at the line of scrimmage in the majority of their games. Now, before we end, let's talk about this game versus Georgia Tech. They come to Syracuse after a massive win over Florida State to start the year, and I'm putting this Georgia Tech team, who is favored, on upset alert. I think that Syracuse at home with this dynamic quarterback in Kyle McCord is going to take advantage of a Georgia Tech team that is kind of riding a little too high. There's a lot of people on that hype train right now, and to me, I'm not going to buy it. I think that this defense is going to have a turnaround, My prediction right now is going to be 31 Syracuse to 24 Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is still going to be able to run the football, which of course they are with their Brent Key at head coach, who is a former offensive lineman. There's always going to be the Yellow Jackets pounding the rock this year, but I think Syracuse can weather the storm. Kyle McCord can win this game as long as the pocket stays clean, get the ball to his playmakers, and score some points. 31-24, that's my pick. I'm calling the outright upset, Syracuse over Georgia Tech. Now that's going to be all. I'm going to talk about another ACC team next time in Miami and Cam Ward. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.